Pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum.
Hello, this is Chef Willie, and you know what time it is? It's Little Fishy time! Little Fishy time! This is where I give my quick thoughts on the recent movies that came out during the second half of this summer. Now, I'm not gonna do them all, I'm just gonna do the ones that I had the chance to see. You can look up my first half of the summer review in the description box down below. We're gonna open up with Ant-Man and the Wasp out of the 7 reviews I'll be making. This one had it tough since he had to follow up to the box office hit of Infinity War with what I dare to say is Marvel's least fascinating hero. To me, the reason that the sequel suffers is because the characters in the story aren't interesting enough to give it a second rewatch. The reason I don't get hyped up for Ant-Man is because after being fed so many lines in superhero movies that costumes don't make the hero makes the costume, well, Ant-Man is a hero who needs a costume to be special. And since he's sharing a universe full of superheroes, he just gets lost in the shuffle in my opinion. There's only a few at hand that I can think of that don't need the Avengers to be special. Captain America, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man, and even Doctor Strange. This Ant-Man, the way it was written, is someone that I feel needs the Avengers to be interesting. I mean, it looks bad when you're sharing title names in the movie and you're supposed to be the main lead, only to come out as secondary. I wouldn't be too hard on Ant-Man if the story was interesting, which is not. It's about rescuing the Wasp mother, Michelle Pfeiffer, from the drunken Dumbo dimension she's trapped in. You know what would have been interesting? What if the plot took place in that weird dimension? It would have been more colorful, more creative. And what if they found their mother insane for all those years of isolation? Imagine how fascinating it would have been the dilemma of family dysfunction, sacrifice, and self-regret. Instead, what do we get? A long, boring mission in the real world on how to get inside that dimension. I'm almost making it sound like it's the worst when it's not. But at the standards of Marvel, this is just skippable. There's a fish that needs a little insect spray. Now we move on to Skyscraper. Say what you want about Dwayne Johnson, but whether you like his movies or not, you gotta give him credit. He's been on fire lately with movie after movie coming out every few months. It just speaks of how hardworking he is, and I'm glad for his Hollywood success. With all that said, Skyscraper just another note-by-note generic action. On the bright side, it's nice to see Dwayne play a character outside of his normal, tough, muscular persona. He has an amputated leg, which makes him feel insecure about himself, and evens the odds when he faces the bad guys. Also, the female lead is no damsel in distress. When she's being played by Scream star Neve Campbell, we all know she's got no time to be rescued but to kick some ass. There was a moment of suspense I felt with Dwayne hanging from the building, but through all those big effects and jumping on fake buildings, it didn't feel special enough. The danger doesn't feel threatening because the villains have no character, and we all know they're going to live. Whether this was meant to be a die-hard remake or not, that one had a sense of danger, suspense, action, and well-established villains. Skyscraper is not awful. Dwayne and Neve Campbell are charming enough to be an average flick. But if someone would say this movie can die hard, I would feel indifferent. There's a fish, I would yippee-ki-yay that motherfucker.
Easy, big fella.
My next review, I intentionally placed it after Skyscraper, to contrast how one is a generic action flick, to this one being considered as one of the best action movies in a while. Mission Impossible Fallout, and considered by fans as the best Mission Impossible of all the series. Even though I'm not a big fan of the Mission Impossible series, I'm well aware they've gotten better every time. Plus, what could possibly go wrong when you have the greatest breakdown dancer in the world? What this Mission Impossible did is that it played with the expectations of the audience. We think we're getting what we see at first, and turns out to be the opposite for fun twists. The other is that its cinematography is at its finest. They don't rely on CGI as in my last review. The locations and most of the stunts are real. There's this scene where they had this long, continuing shot of Tom Cruise falling from an airplane. No CGI.
It's just all real physics in a rehearsed shot they could only do one time. But we don't care to see art. We want to see Tom Cruise jump from high buildings, hang from towers, helicopters, volcanoes, tie up his neck in a helicopter. Each time more risque, as how he injured his ankle right here, and it stayed in the movie. But I guess I shouldn't be too kind to it. After all, this is the movie that did this! The Justice League! But from what it looks like, it all seemed to be worth it. I wasn't hyped up about Mission Impossible, but from what it looks like, they seem to go in a strong direction. I just gotta say, why so much tension between Tom and Cable? They shouldn't be fighting. These two fishes can just dance it off.
Heads up! Heads up!
Coming up next is The First Purge, another movie series that I don't follow, but I've heard that they've gotten better just like the Mission Impossible series. Well, it's been a few months now, and I've already forgotten about it.
Still, The Purge is an interesting concept that has gone on for a while. This one is about how the First Purge came to pass. The government passes a law that makes crime legal for one night. People are free to commit the most heinous acts of murder with the intention to decrease poverty. It's mostly a series of gore and violence with political commentary, though I don't think it went too political with our current politics as they were marketing as. But the more I try to remember any of the characters, I can't remember any. I can't remember any memorable scene. The only thing I remember is that crazy psychopath with the most insane eyes that lust for blood. So at best, this one is just a gore fest with social commentary, but coming from a non-Purge fan like myself, there is nothing I can take away from this one. There's a fish that should purge the hell out of there.
We move on to one of Disney's new live-action remakes, the Winnie the Pooh story called Christopher Robin's. Now, this one did fascinate me a little bit. What would young Christopher Robin's look like if he were an adult? How would Winnie the Pooh interact with an older Christopher Robin's? Well, after I got those answers in the theater, this is how I came out like. That's just settled.
Strange enough, I really wanted to love this movie, but there were some things about it that didn't let me. Regardless of its flaws, this is one of the most charming movies I've seen in this year. Ewan McGregor plays the once young Christopher Robin's, the boy with his imaginary friends Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, Piglet, and the rest of the 100-acre wood animals. Now he's a grown man with a family. He's forgotten about Winnie the Pooh, the Acre Woods, and he's consumed by the pressures of living up to society standards. Until he has a strange re-encounter with Pooh, who reminds him of what it was like to be a child. It's a cute story about family and not letting your job consume you. Half of it was a fish out of water story with Pooh, but he was so adorably naive that you just wanted to hug him. Some of his best scenes were either depressingly dark or left an emotional impact. My only issue is how it contradicts its own fantasy. I thought the animals were imaginary, that he was making it all up inside his head to escape from reality. But in the end, they're real. How? I don't know. They forgot to explain, and the message in the end is hammered in such a corny way. But when it was good, it was unbelievably good. The cinematography looked like Oscar contendant, the characters were charming, and it was neat to hear some of the original voices back. It didn't get much reception when it came out, which is kinda disappointing. If you get the chance, try and check it out. Is it convoluted? Yes, but the true stuff that works is charming enough to give in to the imagination. There's a fish that would bring reality to the 100-acre wood.
Hello there.
Up next is Teen Titans Go to the Movies, based from the Cartoon Network show that has divided fans for taking a more comical approach away from the more serious show. Still, it had enough humor to entertain kids and even adults with its four-wall jokes on the current superhero popularity. The story is about how every superhero is getting their own movie, from the most popular to the least popular. The only ones that haven't gotten their movie yet is Robin and the rest of the Teen Titans. And are determined, especially Robin, to have their own movie. Okay, fuck you, Robin! Fuck you, Cyborg, you already got your movie. It's pretty much a cautionary tale about fame and how family is important. The movie doesn't take itself too seriously.
It's not a commentary on whether the hero genre will get tiring. It only mocks how exploited the genre is, and it works for how hilarious it is. One example is when the Titans go to prevent hero origins like Batman and Superman so they can be the only heroes in the future, only to find out that the future is a mess without them. This is not for general audiences, but if you like silly humor and superheroes, this one is for you as it was for me. There's a fish! I can see having a movie before Robin.
Now this one didn't come out in the summer, but since it came out recently, I might as well add it. For my last review, The Predator. You know, I'm not always hyped up to see these iconic monsters back in the theater. Not because I don't enjoy them, I mean, I enjoyed the first Predator movie, but because I don't know how much they care to make them look good. This one could have been better, but it just didn't deliver.
I should also mention something about the director Shane Black. He's been the screenplay writer for Iron Man 3, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, The Nice Guys, and even had a small role in the first Predator movie. So this is a guy that can do funny dialogue and has a love for the Predator mythos. Well, the only thing I enjoy was to look at the Predator and know more about its background. The music score from the original movie is back, and Olivia Munn. Yeah, say what you want about Hot Scientist, but you know what? I dig Hot Scientist. What I didn't like were the rest of the characters, or as I like to call them, the bro team. You know, the big, tough, muscular guys that are always showing how macho they are and, you know, bro, what's up, bro. Now, I see where they were going. They wanted to give them personality so that the character's death meant something, but couldn't they make them a little more afraid? They're cracking jokes all the time and saying one-liners that it just took me out of the suspense because they're not afraid. They're being chased after by a new, upgraded Predator, more powerful and crueler than the original Predator, after being accidentally called by a kid? I still don't know what to make of the kid. I can see a good, nostalgic Predator wanting to come out, but it's hammy, disjointed, and views itself as a joke. Having humor is fine, but a little more fear would have been better. There's a fish I would use to blow up the bro bus.
So if you missed any of these reviews, here's a quick recap of what I thought about them. Ant-Man and the Wasp shrinks up into a thumbs down. Skyscraper is an underwhelming thumbs down. Mission Impossible Fallout is a thumbs up. The First Purge is a thumbs down. Christopher Robin is a thumbs up. Teen Titans Go to the Movies is a thumbs up. And finally, The Predator is a thumbs down. And as a honorable mention, Ya Veremos, a movie from Mexico, is a thumbs up. And finally, Extinction from Netflix is a thumbs down. How dare you make Michael Peña boring? Shame on you! Honestly, I didn't think this summer was that good. I mean, outside of Infinity War, I can only label it as the summer of big title names, little to invest, because I didn't care much about Jurassic World, Han Solo, or even Ant-Man, a Marvel property. But what do you thought of this summer? Were they good? Were they not good? Leave your comments on the section to see what you thought about this summer. And if you liked this video, leave a like and subscribe for more content. Well guys, tune in next time because when I get back, I'll be comparing Rosemary's Baby and Hereditary. So for now, that's it for today. Ciao!
Pasito tum tum, pasito tum tum, pasito